You don't have to have the expensive gear to achieve any of this. You can definitely use some lower end stuff. You don't need the spotlight. You just need 2 lights, 2 gels, and a model. Yo, YouTube was good. It's been a minute. This year has been a year, to say the least. I just kind of been in my space, you know. Typically, I try to jam-pack my schedule and keep myself super busy and do everything back to back. And this year, I kind of just been taking it easy and doing other things and not doing anything all at the same time, you know. Just been, I guess, really just trying to work with big clients and not have to work so frequently. I mean, being busy is great, but it's like after 10 years, you kind of want to start to streamline some stuff. And yeah, that's kind of like the space I'm in right now. And on top of that, the inspiration for me this year has just been kind of off. The year has been off, you know what I'm saying? And everybody that I've spoke to, people that are in my circle, people outside of my circle, when I go to shoots and people speak about this year, it's just kind of off for the majority of the people that I talk to. I don't know about you guys, but the energy of this year is different, to say the least. But yeah, so speaking of inspiration, I just recently linked up with my girl Laura, which I met probably about a year or 2 ago on another shoot, and she hit me to shoot, and the timing couldn't have been better because I was actually in a window of my inspiration. And I had some ideas, and I had recently stumbled on some old inspo that I found on my Pinterest a while back, and I was just digging through my archives, going through some stuff, and I had some ideas. And probably, I think this is actually like pandemic time, I stumbled across this reflective surface. I did my research, came across it, and found it on Amazon, and I bought it, and then I never put a shoot together with it. So it was literally sitting in the packaging in my garage. Moved the whole house, and here we are like 3 years later, and I'm just not using it. So she hits me, and I'm like, I have the perfect idea. So I shoot over some inspo, and she has some ideas of her own. So we put them together. We set the date, and yeah, and the rest of it was history. So typically, I love shooting outdoors, but on this particular shoot, we're shooting indoors. It's starting to get cold here in Vegas. The weather's really hit or miss, I'm not gonna lie. You can wear a hoodie or a tank top on the same day. So we decided to shoot in studio. So something a little bit different from what I usually do, but not completely foreign in its nature. But I wanted to use this idea, and I wanted to use this reflective surface. When I first started shooting music videos way back in the day, back like 2010, 2011, I used to shoot with colors all the time. I would flood color through my shots. So I kind of wanted to tap back into that. So for my lighting setup, I went with the Aputure 120D and my Amaran 100, which was more than enough to get the job done. Nice. We also paired some of these lights with some gels at a certain time. But first, I want to speak on the importance of this effect and having to utilize continuous light versus strobes. If we were to use strobes, we probably could have got the same effect, but it would have been a lot more, I'm just gonna say, stressful with trying to dial in the effect with these powerful lights. Strobes are very powerful. They're way more powerful than continuous lights are. It's just a burst of light at one time. So with doing that, we would have lost control of the rest of the ambient light in the room, and it would have spilled on the background, which wasn't what we were going for. I needed to be able to control exactly where the light was going and how it was getting there. So for that, we went with continuous lights. That's where these lights come in. Now, you don't have to have these high-powered lights. These lights are expensive. I know that there's Neewer or Godox that you can probably get very similar lights if you don't have them already and still achieve this look. This is just what I have in my kit, so that's what I used. But for this effect, you're definitely better off using continuous lights over strobes. So we had to maneuver our setup just a bit. It wasn't anything that was too stressful. It probably took a cool 5 to 10 minutes of trying to figure out how I wanted to bounce these lights off of the reflective material. So we started by hanging the material from a C-stand, and I placed her in front of it and bounced the lights off the reflector and onto her. So I wasn't directly lighting the subject. This is all being done from bounce light, which gives you this like really moody vibe because it's not direct light, it's ambient light, they're reflections. And then we got this cool shimmery water effect, if you will, on the wall. It was on her and on the wall. And in this particular setup, this is just the Aputure 120D bouncing off of the reflective material and onto the subject. So it gave us this really dope shimmery effect, almost kind of like light bouncing off of water, but without the movement of the water, but it still had the ripple effect in there. And it was cool. So we kind of had to play around with the distance of the light to the material versus the distance of her to where the reflection was coming off of. And then we had to angle her according to where the reflections were coming off of the material because some spots were brighter than others. So I kind of had to use a chair to kind of lift the material up a bit, and it gave us the perfect angle of light to work with for the first setup. So after we were done working the first setup, I wanted to add in color, and this is when it got pretty dope. So once we get going and we have some momentum for the shoot and the creativity is going, that's kind of when I start cooking up, and that's when I want to move into what I really want to do. So we tossed colors on the lights. We had some gels. I used a blue gel on the Amaran 100. And then we tossed a spotlight on the 120D and put an orange filter on that. And again, you don't have to have these lights in order to achieve this look. You just need a continuous light. It probably needs to have some power to it, but Godox, Neewer, I'm pretty sure have lights that are similar in nature and they're probably a little bit more cost effective. These are just what I have. The spotlight isn't mandatory. I just have it in my kit. I bought it probably like 2 years ago and I never use it, so I had to pull it out. And it does intensify the light just a bit more, and it gives it a actual direction, and it's a spotlight, so it's gonna put it exactly where I want it. But I was still just bouncing it off the floor. So for the next setup, we laid the reflective material on the floor, and I bounced the orange light off of the floor and I put the blue light to hit off the background. And some of the blue light was spilling on her right side, so I angled the orange light to come a little bit to her left side so I wasn't shooting at the same angle, and that kind of filled the other side of her face, but it was bouncing off of the ground. So we got this really dual color effect on her, where some of her is orange and it's coming off the material, and some of her is blue and the background is blue as well. And the colors just mesh well together. I love the color split of like orange, blue, orange, teal. Pink and blues are fire. You could play around with all types of splits. I just happened to go with this, and I love the way that it turned out. I feel like the posing that we did with the first setup was a little bit basic because all she could do was stand. And that's kind of one of the downfalls of shooting in studio, I feel like sometimes, is things can come out kind of basic because you're kind of just standing in open space. There's nothing to support your imagery, and then there's nothing for your subject to utilize. So I tried to use a chair to kind of add some type of prop in there to use so it wasn't just so basic. But when we switched over to the colors, because I put it on the ground, I decided to put her right on top of it. So it was intensifying the effect right onto her instead of it being this subtle reflection casted over her and the background. And with the posing here, it was still, the main objective was to put her in a position where the light would hit her correctly. because there was still a lot of spots where if she was too far, it didn't look good. It wasn't hitting her right. If she was too close, it was too harsh. So it was a little bit of playing with distances and angles again, just like the first time, but instead it was her. Instead of moving the lights, I left the lights where they were, and I just moved her for the most part. But once we got the sweet spot, again, it was on and popping. So yeah, this setup is super simple. Outside of my long-winded description of how to put it together, you really just need 2 continuous lights, some gels of whatever colors you want to use, whatever you want to pair together, your model, and a space that you can use where you can control the lighting in it. Super simple. Try it out. You don't have to have the expensive gear to achieve any of this. You can definitely use some lower end stuff. You don't need the spotlight. You just need 2 lights, 2 gels, and a model. So definitely try this technique out. Super simple, and it will elevate your photos. Like, mind you, if we shot these with just a regular strobe, they'd be super basic. And really the only difference between them being basic and not basic is the lighting. Lighting plays a huge role, but it can be something very simple that you do with the lighting that drastically changes the outcome of your shot. So try this out. If you guys shoot something, tag me in it, send it to me, shoot it over to me on Instagram at Tay Price. If you guys like this video, push that thumbs up button for your boy one time so we can get the channel moving. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know the next time that I drop, because I'm going to be giving you guys some more tips on some other things. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, stay tuned for the Send Deposit Fall Winter collection. We got some new hoodies coming out. This is one from it, one of the colors, new colorways. Super dope, super comfortable, keep you warm. Yeah, that's how we doing it. So yeah, until next time. Got it.